Welcome back, everybody, to the Predictive Playbook. This is the 8:15 edition of the Playbook here on the East Coast. So for you West Coast people, you'll probably be watching this in archive time. But for those that are in Sandwich, England, you're probably well on your way to a pretty good day here, the day before the British, I'm sorry, it's not the British Open, it's the Open, begins at 1:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is going to be a tremendous event. And I have a great, fantastic guest here, WagerTalk's Nick Borrman, who has been on this show 6 times, and he is 6 for 6. If you tailed him like I have, you're a pretty happy camper. And each time we win, it gets more exciting to have him back on the show. So welcome to the show, Nick. How's everything going this week?
Hello, John. Thanks for having me. Everything's so far so good. I'm excited for the Open to start. It's one of those events where I do a lot of soccer wagering as well, and one thing I've gotten used to over the years is waking up at 7 a.m. To watch European soccer matches, and so this PGA event is no different. I'm used to it. Most people in the States, like it when it's like the U.S. Open was, and it's on until 10 o'clock at night. But I enjoy this one a lot, and I'm really looking forward to it this week.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one because this brings out a style of golf that the PGA Tour professionals rarely have to play. It's kind of like a golf game. It's played on the ground instead of in the air. And we're at Royal St. George in Sandwich, England, and this was named after a patron saint. It was built in 1887. It was supposed to be St. Andrews South, and it quickly gained popularity back in the day. And I think it was 7 or 8 years after it opened, it actually hosted the first Open event. The last time it was here was 2011, and who was it that won it?
Darren Clark.
Yes, Darren Clark. He was 5 under par, and the weather conditions were very volatile that particular event, and they will be again this year because that's how this is. There's only one surviving tree on the entire golf course, and that's how difficult the environment is. It's a very difficult place to play golf. Greg Norman, however, in 1993 did light it up at 13 under in his win. And then, Jack Nicklaus, his worst score ever as a professional, 83 here in Sandwich, England. And he made the famous comment that, boy, the further south you go in England, the worse the courses get. And I can't imagine Nick uttering that today with social media. There was no social media in 1983, thank goodness for him.
It
just goes to show this course will have teeth, and depending on where these players are at the time that the weather changes, either for the worse or the better, is gonna have an impact. I mean, a rather dramatic one, I think.
100%. I mean, the beauty of the Open Championship in general, and especially here this week, is playing shots. Brooks Koepka was mentioned saying it yesterday, the day before, in an interview, where you can be 40, 50, 60 yards off the green and have 6 different clubs you could hit. And that's just not something that happens on the PGA Tour on the regular. It's always kind of 1 or 2 options. Here it's a lot because it's everything runs off, everything falls off. There's sometimes you have to carry stuff, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you better rolling the ball, as you mentioned. Definitely the guys that have lower ball flights, penetrating ball flights, can stay under the wind. I mean, there's so many factors involved. And honestly, the Open Championship compared to any other major is definitely the most, I'll call it volatile. I mean, it's like if you look at past winners, there's a mix of guys that are, way long shots to the, the best players in the world. And then you got guys like Tom Watson at 59 years old, who was 8 feet away from winning this damn thing because he knows how to play this event. So this, normally you look at a lot of strokes gained data, you look at a lot of, how is everybody playing data, but a lot of this one too can just be gut feeling, people that you think, play well in the conditions that they're going to have this week. European players specifically probably have a good advantage over just PGA Tour players because they're used to the conditions. But it's different. That's the biggest takeaway here.
Yeah, no question. I have my models. I've weighted experience of a number of times playing in the British Open because you really can't use course recency stats because it's been so long since they actually played there, and those guys that are playing again in this event are totally different golfers. After all, it's been 10 years now,
Sure.
so things change. But I'm really wondering who you have on your radar because I'm trying to put my DraftKings lineups together, and the last time we did work together, I have to say I was 134th out of 58,000, and that was pretty good. That was
That's
darn
pretty solid.
exciting, especially coming down the stretch. But I think I told you I learned that the sudden death holes and what I thought would be scoring doesn't count. So
Right.
I'm watching
Right.
it, and I was scared to death to look at my app because I didn't want to jinx it. And then I realized after I opened up the app, I was like, "Wait, that couldn't have been that bad." And then I realized what had happened. So, gotta know the rules.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One guy that Matthew Fitzpatrick is a guy that I bet to win this event last week after round two at the Scottish Open, and obviously he went on to a playoff loss last week, which I guess you could argue sometimes either way that obviously it's good for confidence, but maybe it's bad in the fact that it could be a letdown type of a spot. But I mean, Fitzpatrick's been there before. He's already got 6 international victories under his belt. He won in December again, so it's not like it was like a first time chance for him. He's also 26 years old. I'm not too worried about fatigue or anything happening here, so I look at that more as a positive coming into this week. He's not a long hitter, and this week you don't have to be a long hitter to be able to contend. It's not a long course. What's going to be important, I've been seeing a lot of pictures and reading a lot of articles about the place and how it's going to play this week. I mean, the fescue is pretty nasty right off these fairways, and being able to get that ball in play off the tee is going to be more important than usual at an Open Championship. A lot of the times you can miss a little bit, and it's just like you said, it's a lot of the green surrounds that really become tricky, which will still be tricky, but you got to get the ball in the fairway off the tee. You're going to be in big, big trouble this weekend. Fitzpatrick's good at that. He's 13th on tour in driving and 17th in driving accuracy, and he's a solid putter. He's 24th ranked putting on the tour this year as well. So he's a guy that's playing well. He's got that experience now. This will be his, I forget if it's either his 5th or I believe it's his 6th Open Championship now. And, his first couple, as you'll see with most players here, weren't that great, but his best was his last, which was 2 years ago, as they didn't play last year, was tied for 20th. So he's gotten some experience. He's gotten better through his years, and this year he's been solid all the way through. He's got 7 top 10s in 21 starts this year. He's got 12 top 25s, and he's got that win on the Euro Tour back in December. So I got him at 50-1 during the event last week. He's currently at 40-1. I still think he's worth a play. And I think he's got that drive, and he's an English-born player. So I like Matthew Fitzpatrick as a guy to make a run this week.
Oh, I like him already just because you said his name. So he's down to 40-1 here at DraftKings. He's 6-1, top 10, 4-1. I'm sorry, that was top 5, and top 10 is 4-1. So even 4-1 is a pretty darn good bet too.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I like to back up. If you're doing these outright plays, it's good to have. Unless you're on the favorite, like Rahm or something, then you probably are only going to bet them outright. But anybody else, you can usually back them up and cover yourself with a top 10 or top 20 just in case he's there, but doesn't win. Then it's frustrating sometimes to have the guy that finishes second or third. You don't make any money on him when you had a chance all week. So it's a good way to cover your bet by splitting it up a little bit and putting some on the top 10 or top 20 as well.
I keep meaning to check my database history because the gap between Jon Rahm and then Jordan Spieth, who's the second favorite at 14-1, Rahm's at 7-1. That's a gap of 700 on the betting lines, and I don't recall that happening other than the name Tiger Woods.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And the gap here is, and it doesn't mean that Rahm's going to run away with this either, but to have it twice the number for the second favorite in a major is very rare.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, it's clear. There's no arguing Rahm is the best player in the world right now, even though he doesn't hold the title as it, right? Dustin Johnson somehow slipped back into number 1 last week with Rahm still finishing with another top 10. But Over the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, he's number one on tour in strokes gained, number one in the world rather in strokes gained, per round. There's very little arguing that he's the best player on the planet right now. However, I don't quite believe that the gap between him and that next tier is as big as the bookmakers have it this week. Like you said, that's a Tiger Woods type of a gap, and I don't think we're quite there. But I do believe he should be the favorite. So, he's a hard guy to bet this week. At the same time, I totally understand wanting to get your money on him in some fashion too, because when you bet on him right now, you have a chance on Sunday. It's just remarkable. Every single week, he's a top 10. And so you always know that, something could happen here. And it's fun to be able to put money on somebody that you're going to have a chance with. At the same time, 8-1, if you're betting on an outright market, you can't do much else. You can bet him, maybe one other guy, and that's it. So you kind of stretch yourself, or I guess you're not able to stretch yourself when you're betting around. But I understand wanting to get behind him for sure.
Yeah, and that makes it hard on the optimization models I have too. When you take a guy, one of the sixes that expensive, then you got to possibly dive below the $7,000 level, and then it becomes pretty dicey there. But if there was ever an event to try it, this is it, because I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is an event where you're going to see names that possibly a lot of people have never heard of, and like, well, who in the world is this guy? Or, oh my God, that guy's 48 years old. And anything really can happen here. I don't think there's any chance of Rahm not making the cut. I do think there's a good chance that DeChambeau doesn't make the cut because of what you said about the fescue, and even with his brawny strength, he's not going to be able to carve balls out of that fescue. You and I have played in fescue, and it's just fun to find your ball. I mean, that's the enjoyable part of it.
Yeah, so, he's got a game definitely built for American type of courses. Launch it high, not drive it far, not keep the ball low, roll it around the golf course. So it's when I was looking at the betting board to begin with, it was very difficult looking at him going, just from a value standpoint of not instantly reacting and going, bet Bryson this week, because at 35-1, I have to go back into some historical here. I don't know the last time we've seen him at 35-1. So from that standpoint, I understand wanting to quick bet him, but I don't, a lot of people are going to agree that his game is probably not best suited for this, although a lot of people said the same thing at the U.S. Open too. So you never know, but he is definitely not going to be on my card this week.
And not mine either. Who will be on your card?
Well, I mentioned. Go ahead. I was going to say. I don't
want you to give away the store. I knew that you were the $2 WagerTalk guy yesterday, so I did my best to try to get everybody's attention, because for $2 today you can't buy it for $2, but yesterday you could. And, it's one of the best deals around, because you don't get single picks from Nick. You get matchup head-to-heads, top 10s, top 20s, 2 wins. I mean, it's the whole gauntlet. And, the value even today, if you didn't get a chance to get it at $2, you should go over there and get it.
I appreciate that. Yeah. When we talked about the British Open, the experience needed here, and, the other hard part about this event is obviously it wasn't played last year. So you got guys like Morikawa, Hovland, some of the best young players in the world right now that have yet to play in this type of an event. If you go through the history of the Open Championship and you look at the past 10 winners, the least experienced winner was Jordan Spieth with 4 starts at the British Open, the Open Championship, before he won. And the average, I think, is like 11. It's 11 starts over the last 10 years is what the average is for guys that have finally won this event. Because Ernie Els was one of them. I mean, it was 22 starts before he won. So he brought the average up a little bit, but still. The main point is that you got to have some experience in there. But if you blindly go through this field and eliminate players that don't have that experience, I mean, you're eliminating a lot of big name players and a lot of good young players. And I got to be honest, these players today are different. I mean, they're coming out on tour and winning immediately. And I don't know if that's going to change this week at the Open Championship, but a guy like Victor Hovland, for example, is hard. It's hard to throw him out the window simply because he doesn't have a lot of experience here. I mean, he's coming off a win on the Euro Tour in his last start at the BMW International Open, and he had to withdraw from the U.S. Open. If he got something in his eye, I remember him seeing him wearing that eye patch. But then his next start, he won. And you look at some of his numbers this year. I mean, he's top 10 or top 20 in everything. I mean, he's sixth.
Yeah.
Shots gained off the tee, 18th approach, 9th tee to green, 9th total strokes gained, number 2 in birdie average, 9th in scoring average. And you're getting a pretty good number on him at 30-1. In this field, he has the 5th best strokes gains numbers over the last 3 months, averaging plus 2.11 per round. I mean, I hate to just go simply, experience only, because that's what's proven to be winners here, when I think some of these players are different than, the past. So if you're going to, this is how I kind of went with it this week. I was like, all right, well, let me bucket these players together. Let's put a pool of players that are in that category that don't have the experience together. So that way I don't pick all of those type of players, right? But I'm still going to put my hand in that bucket and grab one or two. And Hovland was the first one that I decided to go with this week as a player that, okay, yeah, he doesn't fit the bill as a past Open Championship, but if there's anybody that's going to break the mold, he's probably one of those guys that's going to have a good chance. So Hovland's in there for me this week.
Yeah, that's good. And I guess Stuart Sink would be a guy that has enough experience, and he's 130-1. But I know I was listening to the WagerTalk Today show, which if anybody doesn't know what that show is, you should definitely go and hit the reminder button on YouTube, because that is one of the best shows on the planet for sports and sports betting info, and it's entertaining and it's fun. And while you were on there yesterday, you mentioned a name that I don't know anything about. And his name is Lucas Herbert. And, he appeared on your radar, and I'm just wondering what you like about him and the type of game that he has coming into this event.
Herbert, I'm glad you asked. Herbert's one of those guys, and like you mentioned before with the Open Championship, you can get guys that are, unless you're an avid follower of the game, you're not going to know some of these names. They're, European players.
Right.
But he's starting to branch out a little bit. He's got a couple starts in the PGA Tour recently too. But he's just a guy that's in great form right now. He finished tied for 4th last week at the Scottish Open. The week prior, he won the Irish Open. His 2 starts before that were on the PGA Tour. Both finished in the top 20 at the Travelers and at the Memorial, which we know is a very, very tough event. Yep. He ranks 17th in this field in strokes gained per round over the last 3 months, and is 3rd in this field over the last 30 days. Over the last month, he's the 3rd best player as far as numbers go in this field. So Herbert is a guy that I, immediately circled right away just to go, all right, let's take a look at what the odds makers threw out there for him. In particular, the way I ended up playing him, I do have a little flyer on him for a leaderboard bet, but I put a bigger wager on him in a matchup. He's paired against Thomas Detry from Belgium, who actually I mentioned Fitzpatrick losing in the playoff last week. Detry was also in that playoff and lost last week. But besides that finish, he's been pretty inconsistent, and he had missed back-to-back cuts before last week in 8 starts prior to last week. He did have one other runner-up finish, but besides that, he had 3 missed cuts, and his best other finish was a tie for 43rd. So in 9 starts, he had 2 runner-ups, but then he had nothing better than a tie for 43rd. So it's kind of like feast or famine, more on the famine side. And over the last 3 months, he's averaging a half a shot lost, minus 0.56 strokes gained tee to green per round. So just a kind of hot and cold play there for me. And Herbert seemed like to fit the mold, and he's a guy that's shown success already over here right now. Coming off the last 2 weeks, both in Europe, winning and finishing tied for 4th is impressive. So that's why I was looking at Lucas Herbert this week, and I think he's a good young player. We'll probably talk about. Maybe in the future, maybe he'll start to make a name for himself on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, that's 2 guys going in opposite directions there, and now Herbert is definitely one of my players for my lineups for sure. I can't understand why he's 90-1.
He's around 6,800, I think, in your DraftKings lineup. So and I have very good confidence in him making the weekend. So I think he's a great guy to anchor your low end of any lineup this week, just because the value's there on him getting through 4 days.
And that's going to help a ton to be able to take Jon Rahm then.
Yeah, correct.
Or Spieth, either one. But Rahm is clearly the most expensive by a lot. curious to know too, because a guy named Dustin Johnson, who the media doesn't talk about too much anymore, and you said now he's number one in the world again. He's coming up on my models, and I'm trying to figure out whether he's a cheap value or whether he's, a lot of people think he won't make the cut. And I guess I'm liking him because it seems to be a contrarian play, if there ever could be a contrarian play on a number one golfer in the world. But it is kind of a strange situation. I'm kind of on the fence whether I really want to bet him a little bit more aggressively than I already have, or just leave it the way it is.
I'll tell you, DJ was immediately circled for me as a player to avoid this week. Not necessarily, bet against, but just avoid. I didn't want to put him on my card. Yeah, he's the number one player in the world, but his form, is just not close to that right now. I mean, over the last 3 months, he ranks 33rd in this field in strokes gained per round. He's got more importantly, for number one player in the field or in the world to have one top 10 in his last 9 starts is more telling than any. And he missed the cut in 2 of the last 3 majors. So, could he come out here and have a good week? Sure, of course. He's number one player in the world. But, all trends and anything that, I try to look at to get me excited to get, to back somebody was just not there for him this week. So I don't want to dissuade you. I don't think he's necessarily just, a waste of a bet. I just personally, for me, I decided he was one of the guys that I was going to leave off my card.
Well, as of right now, it's just pizza money. So you're saving me probably filet mignon, So that's a good thing. Some of these odds are just unbelievably high. Henrik Stenson, 250 to 1. Not that I think he can win it, but even betting him for like a top 20 might have some value because he does know European golf and he's won the event. Correct. But then I think there's a reason why he's 250 to 1. And then Martin Keimer is 150 to 1. So he might be a better, veteran type player to do a top 20 with. But it's amazing some of the names I see at 100 to 1 and higher. Just amazing.
Yeah.
So in that group, is there any that you kind of single out?
Yeah, the beauty of a major is that, yes, you have all the best players in the world and they're all going to be priced. You can start to get pretty good prices on even some of those second tier type of players pretty quickly. But then call it the third tier, call it that next level, that, guys in the smaller events that are usually some of the favorites or in the 20 to 30 to 1 range, all of a sudden are well over 100 to 1. Sam Burns is a guy that, to me, has a ton of value this week. Does he have a great game necessarily for the Open Championship? I'm not sure. And he's definitely a risk, but who isn't at over 100 to 1? He's 150 to 1 this week. All right. He did withdraw from the PGA and he did miss the cut at the US Open, but he also has 4 top 20s in his 5 other starts since the beginning of May. He won the Valspar. He was a runner up at the Byron Nelson. He ranks 9th in this field in total strokes gained over the last 3 months at plus 1.7 per round. So 150 to 1 to win, 10 to 1, or is actually plus 950 for a top 10 to cover yourself, or even plus 450 for a top 20. All said, you know what? There's probably a couple bucks I'd like to get on behind Sam Burns, just because, like you said, you look at some of the players over 100 to 1, and those are guys you're used to seeing down much lower on the odds board. So it's like sometimes you want to take a little bit of a flyer. It's going to be, I still will probably argue, and I'm focusing most of my card up at the top because it's going to be hard to beat one of these top 20 players out there right now. They're just so good, and most likely over 4 days at a very difficult golf course, they're going to prevail. But these are those 50-pound fishing stories you tell your buddies years ago if you could find one.
Yep. And one last question before I let you go, Nick. There's been a lot of positive talk about Jordan Spieth coming into this event, but like we started the show, driving accuracy here is a premium, and he's not exactly a very good driver of the ball. Maybe the recency stats indicate an improvement, but I almost like Tommy Fleetwood better than him. And I just wonder what you think about that combination, because I know Fleetwood's way down the list, but it seems like Fleetwood is a guy that is just one of those situations that I just see him on the leaderboard come Sunday afternoon in that first page.
You're right about Spieth. You look at his season-long numbers, you're not going to find a lot of them that are appealing. But if you look at his anything within the last, this calendar year, 2021, and specifically the last 6 or 3 months, he's gaining strokes off the tee again. Not a lot. He's not putting up numbers like Bryson, but he's not losing strokes off the tee. He's actually gaining, and every other part of his game is gaining. So he's second behind only Rahm in strokes gained per round over the last 6 months and 3 months, in the world. So, he's a guy, Spieth, and it always has been, even when he was winning, all the majors a few years back, is the reason he's good is his confidence and his swagger, right? I mean, you can find some numbers that aren't quite there, but he knows how to win. He knows what it takes, and I like Spieth to probably do well again this week. He's in good form. He's got his mojo back. Everything's kind of clicking for him. Could he get into a few sticky situations off the tee? Yeah, I guess. But over the course of 4 days, I think he can be up there. Fleetwood, the only thing I like about Fleetwood right now is his hair. Got to be honest. That's it. That's it for me. Not somebody I've wanted back. It's just, I don't hate him necessarily. He has no form going on that gets me excited. So, again, just a guy I quickly, passed over when looking through the list.
Well, I'm glad you got me straightened out on that, because this is the type of stuff that allows me to do better. There's no question about it. But I like the story with Fleetwood's hair is that his whole family is bald, so he's going to grow his hair that way until he doesn't have it anymore.
God bless him.
So that, I probably should do the same thing. Well, I actually was trying there for a while before I actually got it cut. What I like to do is go on YouTube and look at the shows from like 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm starting to look even worse than that. But then you decide that you're going to actually venture out and get a haircut because you can, and you don't have to wear a mask for an hour getting a haircut.
Right.
So
I think you look good, John.
Before you go, tell everybody where they can get your picks and any specials you have going on today. And too bad they didn't get that $2 purchase yesterday, but hopefully they all did.
Well, that's okay. There's the Open Championship pack. So that's my complete pack for the week is still available through, about 1 a.m., going into Thursday morning. So you can get that. It's normally priced at $39. You can get it for $19. So 4 days of coverage, because we'll have daily ads throughout the tournament as well. You can get that for $19. Use promo code British20. Yes, it's not the British Open anymore, but it was easy to make a promo code that way. British20 takes $20 off $39 price tag. So you get it for $19. Outright plays, leaderboard plays, tournament matchups, and then daily ads. So I'll have daily matchups, and I'll probably be adding live either outright or leaderboard plays as the week goes on as well. So less than $5 for each day. Get coverage all 4 days. That's on my page at WagerTalk.com.
That's an awesome deal, folks. So make sure you get over there and get that. And Nick will be joining us at between 4 and 5 on Manny's Irish Pub Show. So what an appropriate place to be for Royal St. George's. And I just can't wait for this event to start. I get more goosebumps the day before a major. It's almost like I'm preparing to play in it. I guess we kind of are. But, it'll be a tremendous event, period. So, Nick, I appreciate your time. I know you have to get to another show here. So on behalf of Nick, myself, WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, and the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours.